Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep! Today, we're going to be talking about the Black Clover anime, more specifically what's happened so far in the current anime original canon arc, and how it correlates with the manga. If you heard this arc was filler and haven't been watching it, you gotta knock that off, bruh! This whole arc is very important in explaining the progression and evolution the Clover Kingdom Magic Knights have experienced over the 6 months of training they've undergone. I will also be giving my opinions on certain things and critiquing little details that I may have wanted to go a certain way, because how can we be an amazing community if we can't be honest with each other?
Nani?
Wait. Since I have full control over this video, I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, okay? I hope you don't mind. So, we'll be starting with episode 130, which was a solid start to the arc, nothing too special, and it did feel like filler, but at least it prepared us for what the rest of the arc is kinda gonna look like. Also, you can tell Tabata is involved with this arc right away with this episode because of how it treats characters like William Vengeance, as well as a few decisions that were made during the episode. This episode revealed that William is still treated the same way he always was by his fellow Magic Knight captains, and that he's devoted to earning back their trust and working hard for the sake of the kingdom. Now, we can debate all day whether he should have received a punishment or not, but the fact is, this is the direction Tabata is going with William's character. What it all comes down to is that, although yes, William did in fact commit treason, they need strong captains to protect the kingdom and guide the new generation of knights, now more than ever. And because of what William did, the 500-plus-year-old battle between Sekre, Lumiere, and Zagred was finally put to an end. Now, did William know this was gonna turn out this way? No, not at all. But it did, so a lot of good came out of it, actually. William being treated normally gives us some insight as to why he's still captain and able to face his squad with dignity in chapters 235 through 239, and him wanting to prove himself worthy of their trust correlates with what he does in chapters 238 and 239, where he saves the Golden Dawn members that were still alive. Up next, we have episode 131, and this is another calmer episode, where Asta and Yuno go back to Hodge Village, accompanied by Noelle. And we all knew right away this was gonna be a fun one. Now, Noelle has never met Sister Lily or the rest of Asta's family, so this was great to see, and it highlighted the advantage the anime has over the manga. As in, the anime can explore things the manga may not have been able to. And while lots of other anime do this, Black Clover's anime just happens to do it very well, where it feels natural and not like they're milking the series for all the filler it can give them. Now, don't get me wrong, this episode has some really cringeworthy moments, like when Noelle and Yuno gotta entertain these kids and Yuno does this.
あら赤ちゃんよしよし泣かなくていいのよあお腹が空いたのかしらほらミルクよどうぞ
チュパチュパチュパ
あーおいしいよかったあほらパルムほっぺたに
Hey yo, what the fuck?
But it's also got some interesting developments, like the church finally getting a school made for the children, or the dudes that were trying to bully Yuno in episode 1 becoming assistant instructors at said school after feeling inspired by Asta and Yuno's actions. This episode did a lot to display the progression the show has undergone, and to showcase just how far Asta and Yuno have come. Now, episodes 132 and 133 kinda go together. It's a two-parter, and episode 132 is a bit more of an action episode, but not by much. In this episode, a select number from the Black Bulls are chosen to train with Marileona and the rest of the Crimson Lion Kings again. Now, this starts out as a typical training episode, but quickly turns into something more when a giant spider is discovered that became so big and violent because of a magic item. This spider ends up revealing a dungeon, kinda like the one we saw way back in the early chapters in the manga. Episode 133 is even better, as it shows them exploring what's in the dungeon and taking on the giant spider head on. Now, this may not sound all that exciting, and on its own, it's really not, but the real standout moment this episode was when Leopold unlocked a new spell to ultimately take that W! Also, it's worth mentioning that this was the first episode of Black Clover to air since the show came back after the long 2-month break it had. So honestly, Black Clover fans, including myself, were just happy to have an episode to watch. Anyway, back to the topic at hand, this is a spell we've seen him use in the time skip chapters of the manga. A spell that he couldn't use before, and one that uses runes no less. But for some reason, he doesn't know how to use it at will, so he still needs to train harder to control it. Now, I wish they had gone a little deeper into the dungeon stuff and explored new concepts, instead of showing us the same old things we were already familiar with, because I'm sure dungeons hold more secrets than we're aware of, and we don't get a lot of opportunities to see them used in the story. But you know, oh well, it is what it is. I can't be mad at it. Honestly, like I said, I was just happy to have an episode back. Now, episode 134 is another calm down episode where they bait us into thinking something super important is happening, just to make the whole episode about Sister Teresa and celebrating her 15 years of service as a nun. Now, this episode could easily be dismissed as filler and be deemed not worth watching, but I like this episode. It's fun, simple, and just might reveal something new about the nuns, or at the very least, Sister Teresa herself. Majority of the episode is about Fagolion and Merliona, since they threw the whole party for Sister Teresa in the first place due to her being their old tutor. But as the episode goes on, the two siblings start to bicker and argue until they're straight up fighting to the point where lives could be at risk, where Sister Teresa has to break it up. Now, there are some things you could nitpick here, like how was she able to stop their punches with just her bare hands? Or why would they go all out like that with children in the room? Bruh. And those are all good questions, but the truth is they weren't going all out. In fact, they were probably holding back quite a bit. And that just shows how powerful they are as magic knights. They knew they weren't gonna hurt anyone, and because they weren't using anywhere near their full power, she was able to break it up. However, I don't think we should rule out the possibility of her being strong enough to stop them at full strength, because something tells me we have not seen her full potential either. And I think there could be a lot we don't know about Sister Teresa, as we already have discussed theories about Sister Lily being more than she says she is. So for all we know, they both could be in the same boat. We also get some new information and some possible foreshadowing for certain things. For one, we see Gauche in the episode, and he wants to join the party to see Marie, but he had to transform into a child to do this, and for that to happen, he had to ask Gray to transform him, which although is nice foreshadowing for Gray and him to be closer, which was already heavily foreshadowed in the manga, this also means that she can transform other people, meaning she could have transformed Julius into his adult form in episode 130 to stand in front of the people of the kingdom, instead of having Owen do it with a bunch of bandages wrapped around his head. Because that's a problem I have with that episode. There were two other better ways they could have handled that, and they both involved Gray. And if she wasn't gonna change Julius's appearance, she could have transformed into Julius herself. So even if she was nervous and jittery, she would have looked like Julius. Again, that's a nitpick, and this arc isn't perfect, but it's a whole heck of a lot better than a random filler arc. Lastly, before we move on to the next episode, we get a tiny hint at what may be some deeper lore for the nuns. Sister Teresa says that she gives the Vermilion siblings permission to celebrate her service when she's served 100 years. She's already ancient! How the frick is she gonna serve 100 years as a nun? Either this means nothing, or it's foreshadowing that she can live for a lot longer than we previously believed. I don't know. Let us know what you think in the comments down below about this. Next up, episode 135 was freaking perfect! Why? Because it focused on my man Yami! More specifically, it focused on the best ship in all of Black Clover. Yami and Charlotte got some sweet screen time together, and you know us at ABD are happy people whenever this happens. This episode was better than any episode before it in this arc, and it was such a good time! It was a mixer episode, just like episode 28, but this time it was so Finral could train himself to resist flirting with other women, because his heart belongs to finesse. Naturally, he brought Asta in luck with him, just like last time, and Asta invited Rebecca, so we get to see the two of them as well. And just like last time, we get to see Noelle in a maid outfit, but this time, we get to see Nero wearing the same thing! She's so cute! What the frick, Lumiere? You obviously never saw her in a maid outfit, cause I know you would have invited her back to the afterlife with you after seeing that! But as the episode goes on, it's revealed that Longris and Finesse are actually spying on Finral to see how well he does at his training, to break the curse. All in all, there isn't a whole lot that happens this episode, but it's more the little things that make it so great. Like Gordon making a new friend in Pulley Angel from the Blue Rose Knights. Or the fact that we learn more about her character, like how she's actually great with giving advice on relationships. There may even be a potential ship there, but we'll see what happens. Eventually, Yami and Charlotte end up touching hands, and Charlotte is so overwhelmed, she jumps out the window and runs down into the lower level of the bar. And of course, Finral's lady killer instincts kick in and tell him to save her from her self-induced rampage. Like I said, this episode is just a really good time, but it potentially may have set things up for the future regarding who ends up with who. Up next, we got episode 136, and this is a really big one! This whole episode centers around Noelle, and it deepens her connection with her mother, despite never knowing her. The people of the underwater temple are in need of the Black Bull's help, as it appears the Kraken from deep within the sea is going haywire and attacking anything and everything. The Black Bulls agree to come down and talk with the temple's people, and after some time, Noelle and Finral volunteer to go with the dancing and singing duo of siblings. On their way down, they encounter these weird-looking fish thingies, kinda look like those monsters in Aquaman, but apparently they weren't always like that, and only became that way because of all the powerful mana in the area. This may not seem important, but it tells us a bit more about the world of Black Clover and everything that's possible. Anyway, Kyoto and Kahono mask up and show them a thing or two, but it's not enough, and soon they're outnumbered and outmatched. Not long after, the sea dragon's cradle Noelle had used to carry them all the way down below is pierced by the tridents these things have for some reason.
Of course!
Noelle remembers Laura Petchka talking about natural mana and how it can be utilized from all around you, and realizes that if she gets all this chaotic mana around here to work with her, she'll be able to save everyone! With that, she activates the Sea Dragon's Cradle spell once again, but this time using natural mana, and is somehow able to protect everyone with their own individual cradle. From there, they escape the fish monsters, only to encounter the Kraken! She then realizes she needs to bring out the big guns for this one, so she activates her Valkyrie Dress spell, and incapacitates it temporarily so they can move on. Eventually, they discover some underwater ruins, and it looks as though people may have lived down there long ago. Suddenly, the ground starts to rumble, and a giant furry creature swims out of the trenches below. But it's nothing to be feared, it's only the Guardian of the Sea. Turns out that it was pregnant, and the rest of the creatures of the sea were only trying to protect it. The nostalgic noise Noelle was hearing all this time was coming from the Guardian, and when it comes over and touches her head, she sees her mother once again. This tells her that her mother must be linked to this place and to the Guardian itself, and this all hints that Aesir may have been here before. After that, we have episode 137, which I deem to be the second funniest episode of the arc, right next to 135, and that would be because half of it revolved around Best Girl Charmy! This was also the first episode to do something like this, where they split the episode into two little half episodes that are each about different things. Like, the first half of this episode was about Charmy, and the second half of this episode was about Best Boy Gordon! Anyway, to explain it simply, the first half of the episode is all about Charmy making the perfect food to restore mana, so that they can eat it while facing the devil, or something. I don't know how useful that would be, cause, you know how... But I'm sure something like that will be useful in general, so she has the right idea. She goes to that chef guy we saw way back in the early episodes, you know, the one that did the Salt Bay thing? Yeah, that guy. She goes to that guy and asks him to train her. So there's an epic training montage, a little unrealistic and dramatic, but hey, whatever. Anyway, after all that, she hopes to have made the perfect magic restoration dish, but it backfires as the food comes alive and starts to absorb all their mana. Now, this may sound incredibly stupid, and yeah, it does, even I admit it, but it is interesting to know how all things in the world of Black Clover react to mana in ways we never imagined possible. From the fish monsters to this thing, whatever it is, it's evident that mana is a lot more powerful than we had anticipated. But, getting back to it, Asta gets the idea to eat the monster because it is food, come on now, even if it is the kind that'll eat you.
Bruh.
So he's chomping away at it, and Yami can feel his mana gradually returning. So the other bulls jump up and start munching on the noms. Of course, Charmy is perfectly fine afterwards, while everyone else is fat and full-bellied because they ain't man enough for that Charmy diet. But Asta makes an interesting observation and points out that this food tasted different than her usual cooking. It tasted like it was purely made for the purpose of enhancing mana and not for making the person eating it happy. This teaches Charmy that she has to love what she creates, otherwise it won't be what she wants it to be. This is the first little bit of development Charmy has gotten in a long while, and it really is satisfying to see that Tabata definitely plans on making her character grow and not just in height. The second half of the episode belongs to Gordon, and while this half has its flaws, if you judge it super critically, I think it's even better than the first half. So basically, Gordon decides to train with Asta and Noelle and finds out he's not as strong as them.
Nani?
No, duh. You don't have the experience they do. How could you hope to beat Asta? Anyway, because of this, he feels discouraged and decides to leave the bulls to go train in solitude. However, this doesn't go too well as he loses his week's worth of food. Then he starved for 3 whole days, at least I think he did, based on how he looks, because I mean, come on man, look at him. He's clearly starved and doesn't know where the frick he is. He sets up a campfire and munches on some berries, but let's be real here, that ain't gonna keep this man going for long. Suddenly a wild poisonous wolf appeared. Gordon used Dwelling of the Poison Cloud, but it wasn't effective. Gordon retreated. Anyway, once he feels safe to stop, he sits down and wonders why being alone wasn't making him any stronger. He figured being around those stronger than him was only making him weak. But now, he doesn't even know what the problem is. Suddenly, the wolf catches up to him, but this time with its huge gigantamongo mama. Look at this thing. What the freak is that? They just have this stuff running around in Black Clover? How does it not rampage? And how have we not seen them before? Anyway, Gordon freaks the flip out and uses this spell that I, for the life of me, cannot pronounce, but it's ineffective. Then the mama yeets him away like it's nothing. Just when he thinks he's about to die and all is lost, wait! I forgot to mention he made these little wooden dolls of the Black Bull members and he was playing with them earlier before the wolf showed up. These dolls fly out of his pocket conveniently and he sees them in front of him in this super particular way that unlocks the power of friendship! Okay, so it's not that cliche, it's more like he realized his friends make him stronger and that he shouldn't run from the support of his friends. Loneliness is the real poison and the antidote is the power of friendship! Okay, guys, I'll stop. We get it, Kaiba. The power of friendship is too powerful. You know we at ABD got that balls deep friendship. Wait, what?
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
He waltzes up to the mama wolf and gives it a hug? This man is brave, what the frick? My boy Gordon got guts, bruh. He got no fear.
Of course.
Anyway, he returns home to find that the other bulls aren't even there. So he assumes they got his letter and went out looking for him. But nope, they went and got food. They had a coupon for 90% off their whole order. So they were feasting, bruh. And I mean, I love Gordon and all, but if that were me and I have this 90% coupon, I'd be like, Gordon could come back at any time. We better eat, fam. Anyway, we're almost done, guys. We got 3 more episodes. That's it. Then we're done with the first half of the filler arc. Sorry, the canon filler arc. Gotta put that in there so no one thinks this is season 4 of Naruto or something. So, episode 138. Good episode, nice, well written, straightforward, to the point. What else can I say about it? It was good. Okay, moving on.
Nani?
What? You really thought that was all I would say about it when I spent 20 million years talking about the last 2 episodes? And then suddenly became Gloria Borger? What? I don't know what I'm doing, guys, okay? I'm sorry. Anyway, episode 138 is an episode surrounding Zora Ideal, as he reflects on his past while helping a young boy in a very similar position to the one that he was in growing up. The young boy's name is Ina, and like Zora, Ina and his father are poor, but his father wants to be a magic knight despite being a commoner. Also, can we talk about Ina's eyebrows? They're all spiky, just like Zora's. This is like some Rock Lee, Mike Guy levels of eyebrow similarity. As the episode goes on, Ina runs into some royal kids that try to enforce the idea that that they're better because they're rich and come from noble bloodlines. Because of course they would. This is Black Clover. That's what all royals do. But unlike Zora, Ina has someone there who has been on his side of life and is willing to help out. At one point, Ina even almost gets arrested for something he didn't do and was only blamed because he was a commoner. But Zora was there to be to Ina the person he never had growing up and said that he witnessed the whole thing, proving Ina's innocence. Why did he help Ina? Was it because he was a commoner? Was it because he hates royals? Yes and yes. But it also had a lot to do with the fact that he was holding on to Zora's memory and wanted to be just like him. This was such a deep and beautifully written episode, and it allowed us to look deeper into the mind of Zora. After that, we've got episode 139, which centered around Vanessa and her desire to gain more power to use against the devils. I mean devil, singular. There's one, shut up manga readers, don't spoil it. Anyway, she desires more power, so she goes to the only place she could think to look, the Witch's Forest. She approaches the Witch Queen and asks her for more power, but she refuses and wonders why she would even need it. Eventually, they come to the agreement that if Vanessa can get rid of the magical beasts that are attacking the security golems, she will tell her more about this special way to become stronger. She agrees, and then with that, Vanessa meets up with the two witches who will be helping her, Little Miss Noelle Clone and Little Miss Grey Clone. Noelle Clone has illusion magic, and Grey Clone has sound magic. And later on in the episode, the three of them use their magic in unison to scare away the magical beasts with a giant thread monster. Now, this is impressive because 1, I had no idea Vanessa could even make something that massive with her threads, and 2, the other two learn their magic isn't useless like they have been led to believe, and that when the devil, totally singular and not plural at all, shows up, they'll be able to be of more use than they had previously imagined. Afterwards, Vanessa meets up with the Witch Queen and gets her chance to receive more power, but for some reason, she doesn't take it.
What? What the fuck?
She says that she's going to gradually raise her mana and train herself by her own means. Okay, you can do that, but maybe you might want to look at what she can do for you, huh? Why can't you do both? And lastly, we have episode 140, which is split into two halves just like 137. The first half is a bit less complex and more of a fun one, so let's get right into it. So we get to see Marks again, and we're introduced to this snowman dude. No, not that snowman dude, this snowman dude. This is Makusa North, the magic item researcher, voiced by Daisuke Sakuma, one of the guys who gave us... So yeah, anyway, the two of them bring Sally along because she's a scientist and whatnot, and basically she wants to do research on members of the Black Bulls, because of course she does! Only problem is, no one but Asta is okay with that, and that's only because he promised he'd let her. So Sally goes around and finds the other members, indirectly injects them with the magic enhancing formula, and leaves them all knocked out and unconscious because it was too much for them. But when it comes to Asta, she just snips off some of his hair, I guess? Most likely because he has no mana. This reminds me a lot of the entire plot for the Chibi spin-off, Squishy Black Clover, and that's because it basically actually is, more or less. The entire thing was all about Sally, who went around running experiments on the other Black Bulls members, one after the other, until she finally did the same to Asta in the last episode. Of course, it's not exactly the same. In the spin-off, she made everyone into Gundam-style mech versions of themselves, which they really need to make figures of! And in the end, they all combined to make a gigantic mech bull and fought off the giant lick demon skull head. I actually have a video all about why you need to watch this. Check it out in the pinned comment. Personally, while I know what happened in the spin-off was ridiculous and wild and would never actually happen in the real show, I enjoyed it more. And that's because they went all out with the chaos of Sally's character, while in episode 140 they had to really restrain themselves. Anyway, the second half of the episode is a bit more serious and kinda deep. Not like balls deep, but more like I'm 14 and this is deep deep. Basically, Julius wants Marks, Noelle, and Fulgolion to go investigate the robberies of a small village by the name of Arendam. Yup, it's called Arendam Village. Totally something Tabata planned with them and not just a random village.
Of course!
Anyway, they have to go undercover and investigate the town, see what the issue is, and hopefully fix it so it doesn't keep happening. So they go, and at first the place looks uninviting, with the people being cold and defensive, until Fulgolion says Chronovala, a word Julius told them to say should they ever find themselves in a tough spot. The townspeople instantly change their tone own and start being super duper welcoming. Apparently, Chronovala was a lady who had visited the village at one point and helped them out tremendously. So much so that they still remember the name with fondness. Chronovala was actually just Julius transformed into an old lady. The same one that sold Asta that grilled purple snake in episode 4. And so the village residents invite them to stay the night, and they can't possibly refuse, so they do just that. But not too long after they get situated for the night, Fagolion senses trouble from outside. So they leap out, guns blazing, and just go nuts! Like for real, they're lucky they didn't kill anyone. In the midst of all the fighting, Noelle's blade cuts off the mask of one of the robbers, and it's revealed that they're all just the people of the village. The villagers explain that they were only trying to survive. After the Eye of the Midnight Sun attacked, no one came and helped them repair their town, and they were forced into worse poverty than they were already in. The one in front claims that he was the leader and asks that he be the one to be taken into the Magic Knights, but the rest of the people around him demand that they be punished as well. Marx realizes that this wasn't entirely their fault, and the Clover Kingdom also had some blame for this. Fagolion and the others reveal their identities, shocking absolutely everyone, including me. Like, their codenames were so convincing, I legit forgot who they were. Fagolion proclaims that they'll let the misconduct go as their village is in need of assistance, but Noelle disagrees and think they should be punished. Ultimately, they end up with the light punishment of helping to restore the villages in the area. I mean, that's not light punishment, but it's better than being locked up. They reassure the people that the royal capital has not forsaken them, and with that, they take their leave. The next day, they send out Magic Knights to go visit the villages and see what kind of aid they need, making sure all get the help they require. It's then revealed that Julius sent them there to change their outlooks on the kingdom as a whole, reminding them that their goal as Magic Knights is to make sure the citizens can live in peace. Okay, now I've gone over every single freaking episode we've gotten so far in this arc, outside of the most recent one, 141, which is part of the second half of the arc, and I'll be doing a whole video on that as well, but that's a ways off. Now, I want to talk about everything I had an issue with, but since I've already been talking for so long, I'm gonna make it quick. Noelle didn't need to use natural mana to save her friends. She could have just used Valkyrie Dress to swim to her friends while breathing underwater, and I know she can do this because she basically does this the next scene, and activated the single Kratos spell once everyone was together. Also, how was she able to breathe underwater? Is that something Valkyrie Dress just allows you to do? You grow gills when the armor appears? And then there's the whole thing with her mom, and I get what they're trying to do, but Aesir never had water magic. Her magic is Mercury, just like Noelle, so how did she make her way down there? I get that Noelle is naturally linked to water as an attribute, but the only possible explanation I can think of is that her father had a water attribute, and he took Aesir there, but I don't really know, honestly. It's not explained. I don't know. Now, I'm not trying to be too rough, but this all just didn't make a whole lot of sense, and I love this episode. I really, really do. This was the best episode so far, this arc, in my opinion, although I know Otto would disagree.
Of course!
Vanessa should have taken the power the Witch Queen was prepared to give her, because she doesn't actually know if her own training will be enough, and by default, she's underestimating the Spade Kingdom. Episode 138 is great, but a little too on the nose. Ina has too many similarities to Zora, and his situation is way too similar to Zora when he was growing up. There are lots and lots and lots of other things I could nitpick, but I'm gonna be nice and wrap the video up here, mostly because my voice is so tired. As I mentioned much earlier in the video, like 1,000 years ago, I have my own channel, and I also work full-time for ABD. In fact, I have been for like the past year and a half at least. So if you're just now meeting me, hi there! My channel is in the pinned comments, so please check it out. Subscribe if you want. I know I would greatly appreciate it. And also hit the subscribe button on this video if you haven't already. Also smash that thumbs up button to let us know you like this kind of content. With that, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye!